guys, I thought I would come and tell you the kind of tips and tricks that I've been introduced in to help with weight loss. The first thing I should say for anybody that's new or doesn't know, I am on Wegovy. So it's the same drug as Ozempic, except that it's the same ingredient. Ozempic is actually a diabetic drug. Wegovy is a weight loss drug, and you can get to a higher dose on Wegovy than you can on Ozempic. So I'm on Wegovy, I'm on 2.4 milligrams. I've been on Wegovy for a year now, and I love it, and it works for me, and I've done videos on that. But I have found that it's not a magic bullet for me. You know, it's not something that, I know a lot of people just find they don't want to eat on it and they have to force themselves to eat. That's not something I find at all. I still want to eat. I've definitely got a lower appetite and I get full up easier, but I could live on chocolate. I could happily have chocolate for breakfast, lunch and dinner. And so I do have to be careful, and I do have to use this as an opportunity to learn what my body wants, and etc, etc. But there's a few things that I've been doing that I feel like have helped my weight loss. So yeah, let me tell you about them, because some of them are a bit odd, I think. The first thing I'm doing is try to make things a bit more exciting and a bit more varied, I suppose you could say. And so it's given me a bit more of an interest in making dinners and lunches and things, just by adding like some herbs and some spices, that kind of thing. So for example, one of the meals that I'm making is for dinner. It's a vegetarian dinner actually. It's halloumi, and so I cut the halloumi into slices and kind of pat it and then fry it. And then with that I make bulgur wheat, and you can use quinoa for this as well, with some red chili chopped and put into it, red chili pepper, tiny little bit of celery and some spring onion, and sometimes they put pine nuts in it, so it's almost like a tabbouleh, and then I have that with the fried halloumi on top, and it is so yummy. And this is a dinner that actually we used to have, but we didn't used to have all of those extras in the bulgur wheat, and I stopped because I was trying to go low carb. But actually it's a dinner that I love. It's something that's, like I said, it's got some bits and pieces in it that kind of help with the variety, and it's something that I really look forward to eating. And so I'm less likely to want to snack afterwards if I feel like my dinner has been a treat, if that makes sense. So if I'm just eating, you know, I see a lot of diets where it's like, here's a piece of boiled chicken with some boiled potatoes and boiled veg, and it's like that, it doesn't interest me, and it would be hard for me to eat that. You know, I'd be uninterested in it. I'd probably not be able to finish it. I'd feel like I wanted something else, because I haven't ever changed that psychology that I want food to be enjoyable, and food is a big part of my life, and I want it to be that way, you know. And so I've tried to sort of vary things, like I said, by just going, right, okay, what herbs and things can I add to this? Like I make us egg mayonnaise sandwiches at the weekend, and I've now started adding chives in, which was really nice. So that's my number one, is kind of vary things and get excited about trying new things and trying things in new ways. Next on my list is to have a handful of ideas that are sweet things that I can eat. Are they all sweet? Yeah. Sweet things that I can eat or drink, one of them's a drink, that are healthy in some way. And then don't worry about how much you're eating of them, counting calories, all of that, but just have options there for if you fancy something sweet. So I have listed another video to do talking about these, my kind of favorite sugar-free things that I eat. But one thing is prunes. I love prunes, and I sometimes buy the Marks and Spencer's ones. They're quite expensive. They're soft prunes. The Sainsbury's ones are nice. They're the ones I usually buy, and they're really nice. I'm surprised how much I like them. And they're obviously good for you. They're good for your digestion, especially if you've got constipation or anything. So I really enjoy prunes. Dark chocolate I've put, because dark chocolate that's 70%, I don't like the 80% stuff, but I have 70% chocolate in, and I only have a few squares of that. What else I put on here? Cupcakes with fibre. Yeah, I make these. In fact, I've got them. I'm going to show you them. I made these yesterday. I only ever make 4. They're really tiny, but that I have 2 a day. I've had one today already. I must have had one yesterday. I'm going to be left with an odd one. But I made these yesterday. They are air fryer chocolate cupcakes. But in here, I add in a sprinkle of flaxseed. And so it means that there's some fibre in there. And they're actually a really healthy cupcake. So what they've got in them is cacao, egg. I put a little bit of ground walnut in there, ground almonds. What else? Is that pretty much it? Oh no, and my erythritol, I use sweetener. So they are sugar-free chocolate air fryer muffins. And they're so quick and easy. It's just one bowl, put all the ingredients in, mix it together, put it in a silicone muffin tray and pop it in the air fryer. I can show you how to make those if you like. And what was the other thing? And chocolate milk. I have this chocolate milk drink. If I fancy at night, if I've had my dinner and I fancy something sweet and I'm like, I've really got a taste for something else, or I'm not quite full up enough, I'll make this chocolate milk drink, and I make it from my almond unsweetened milk. And then I add in 10 grams of my Options salted caramel that I also have in my shake in the morning. And I then also add in a bit of this, it's called 10 p.m, the company, and they do this nighttime chocolate drink. And so I put a little bit of that in, and then I whisk it up with a little hand whisk, and it is lovely, really lovely. And I've really been enjoying that. And it's kind of just having that little glass of 300 ml. It's just like, oh yeah, now I feel like I've had a treat. I feel more full up and more satisfied, and it's great. And that again is no sugar. It's got in this 10 p.m. nighttime drink I have, it's got minerals in it and different. I think it's got ashwagandha in it and a couple of healthy things in it. But you could just use cacao as well. I've also used that before I got the 10 p.m. chocolate drink, which has got magnesium and all sorts in. So there's something that you can eat that is healthy, and even any kind of fruit obviously falls into that category. So have options for yourself if you're going to fancy something sweet. Same thing if you're a savoury eater. Make some things that you can eat that are, nothing comes to mind that I could make. I'm not really a savoury person. I would probably eat a piece of cheese if I had a really savoury craving, and at least then you're getting some calcium. Next is fibre, and I really feel like this is making a huge difference to my diet. I feel like I'm fuller for longer since adding this extra fibre in, extra fibres in, and I just feel like my weight loss is more even. Now, it may be to do with the Wegovy, that definitely helps. But I've been through periods while being on the Wegovy where I've put on a lot of weight again. But actually, I just had a 2-week holiday, and I feel like I ate pretty badly. In that we were having some kind of cake most days, naughty dinners, a few takeaways. We ate out a couple of times, but I put on 2 pounds. I put on £1 a week. That's amazing for me. I would normally put on £4 in a weekend. So to only put on £2 over 2 weeks is pretty amazing. And I'm pretty sure it's because I made sure I still had my fibre for that whole time. And so the way that I get my fibre in, I always have my linseeds in my morning shake. I have that morning shake. It's my salted caramel Options mixed with Alpro almond milk. I put these in it. I put a little teaspoon in, and I put in some peanut butter sometimes. There's quite a few different things I put in, but I added in this a little while ago because it's supposed to help with sleep. I can't say that it helps with sleep anymore. I thought it did at first. It's the Golden Greens Biofibre Organic Prebiotic Inulin. So I added this in, and then more recently I've added in this Psyllium Husk, which I wanted to introduce. I've cut the top off just because it's easier to keep it closed with a cricket. Now, just to know, I do have to only add in 2 grams of this. I can't add any more, otherwise it makes me nauseous. But since doing all of that, I definitely feel fuller, and fibre is known to have a healthy effect on your body in all sorts of ways, and it can help with weight loss. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 4 is to drink more water, which again sounds really basic, but I found that really useful in terms of I'm drinking a lot less tea and coffee. And what I do is I think I was in the habit of going, I'm going to have another cup of tea, have another cup of tea, and I'd have tea after tea after tea, which is what my dad did. My dad drank tea all day long. And I used to always say to him, actually, why don't you drink some water, or why don't you drink some... a decaffeinated tea is what I wanted him to drink. I drink decaffeinated tea or Red Bush's tea. I drink decaffeinated coffee. I've never liked, you know, caffeinated coffee too much. I had got into the habit of being as bad, you know, even though it's decaf tea, I was just drinking constantly and making that my sort of hydration. And although there's not many calories in mine, even though I have a lot of milk, I have unsweetened almond milk. So there's not many calories in it, but it's still better for you to keep hydrated. And I just find that I'm getting into the habit of drinking water more. And I'd have a glass, or I'd think, right, okay, I want a cup of tea. I'm going to have a glass of water. And if I still want a cup of tea after that, I can have a cup of tea. Most of the time I don't. And so I'm having 1 or 2 cups of tea a day, which is amazing for me. Because like I said, I probably had, I don't know, 5 or 6 at least. I didn't ever count them. I just constantly drank tea. But it also kind of fills you up a bit more. Like if Kev's coming home from work and say he's supposed to be in for 7 and he texts and says, I'm not going to get until 7:30, 8 or whatever. I'm normally starving by then and ready for my dinner. I'll have a glass of water and it does actually tide me over, you know. So yeah, drink more water. I know these are simple ones, but they've been really, really useful for me. I don't love plain water. I do have a couple of glasses of plain water, but I also drink like Ribena Light, and I drink flavoured water that's sweetened. I know it's not great and I should stop sweeteners and all the rest of it, but I think it's better to drink that than to drink tea constantly. Next is to get organised, and this is again something I've found really, really useful. Now, something I do in terms of recipes is if I have a recipe book, it's hard because a lot of them are beautiful, but if I have a recipe book that I've only got a couple of things out of it that I want to use, I tear them out. I use a ruler to make sure I, you know, rip it out and don't rip it in half or whatever. And then I put it in a folder. I'll show you my folders. I've got several different folders. I've done this for years and years and years. This is my air fryer folder. I've got an air fryer one, a slow cooker one, a keto one, a sweet one. And so it's just a display folder and it's got these plastic wallet type things. And so you can see that I have taken these out. When it's really good is if you buy like an air fryer magazine or whatever, you can keep the ones that you want. I've made these coconut skewers and they're absolutely delicious. So I've just got all the recipes in here. These are taken out of the Board of Lunch book. That's Board of Lunch as well. That one is the chicken satay I've been making, which I really enjoy. But getting organised, I feel like has just made it easier to try some of the new recipes. And I'm determined to try some of the things I've got in these folders and also in my iPhone, rather than just, like I come across a lot of recipes that I love, but never getting around to actually making them. And so I'm just saying, right, okay, when I'm doing my shopping list, once a week, just either leave a gap so you can buy ingredients nearer the time if you need to, or just decide what you're going to do and plan to try one recipe from somewhere. So I've got my folders, so I can either say, right, okay, I'm going to do an air fryer one or a slow cooker one or whatever. And I've also got my iPhone. I take a lot of recipes from Instagram and even TikTok, you know, and I save them, and I've just got a folder called food, and I'll look through that and go, that's what I'm going to try this week, you know. So I've been doing that, and that's it. Again, it adds that sort of element of excitement, of variety rather than excitement. But I do get excited about food, especially if I'm trying something new, you know. And I would say, if you're looking at recipes on Instagram, always look at the comments, because I've tried a lot of recipes that look lovely and aren't. And so I always read the comments and try to see if anybody's actually made it and said, I made this and it was lovely. And you'll also find sometimes people will go, I tried this and it was rubbish. That happens mostly with sweet things, you know, savoury things are a bit better. But yeah, that's just a tip for you to figure out good recipes. Okay, next is to take measurements that you can with whatever equipment you have or want to buy. So for me, I take my blood pressure and I take that regularly. And I also take my blood sugar. I've taken my blood sugar for years and years since I saw a gynecologist for polycystic ovary, and then they found out I had hyperinsulinemia, and then I got the glucose machine and I've been taking it ever since. But you can use things like, you know, if you've got, like I've got my Fitbit watch as well, you can test your heart rate. And there's lots of apps and things that you can use to test your heart rate. And And I think it's good to take measurements like that because, you know, like measurements of your waist and whatnot, if you're wanting to lose weight and not just get fitter. But to take things like blood pressure, I feel like it's good to see things moving downwards, not just the scale. And that's a kind of motivator. And they say that the more you write down, like if you write down every day what you're eating, you're more likely to be careful. If you're actually writing it down in a diary, you know, or putting it into, like, I used to use my fitness pal and whatnot. I don't do that anymore. I never wanted to do that. I always found that a hassle. And I know that it's worked for some people. But it's just not me doing that all the time. But measuring things that are to do with my health is a real motivator. So for example, yesterday I saw that my blood pressure was high. And I was like, you know what? I haven't A, done as much exercise as I should be doing recently, and B, I have kind of, since being on holiday, fallen a little bit out of the drinking as much water as I should. So I woke up this morning, and before I did anything, I poured myself a large glass of water. And normally that will help. And I did 20 minutes on my exercise bike yesterday, and that it's not going to be instant, but you will see differences. And so I'll see a difference in my blood pressure. Yeah, I think things like that help. I can't think of what else you could measure. You could measure your breathing rate, and you know, I'm doing kind of breath holds and trying to do nose breathing rather than mouth breathing when I can. And there is a way. I think it's called Buteyko or Buteyko breathing. I'm not sure how you say it, but I'm reading a couple of books on breathing at the moment and doing breath hold exercises and whatnot. So you could measure that. But I don't know how much the diet would affect that. The last one, again, is I think pretty simple, but it's something that if ever you've read, there's a book called I Can Make You Stop Smoking. I Can Make You, no, that's not it. It's not that. Yeah, it is Alan Carr. I read Alan Carr, I Can Make You Stop Smoking. Alan Carr, I Can Make You Lose Weight, I think it's called. And he doesn't recommend avoiding things. So for example, if you're giving up smoking, at the time, it was before the smoking ban when I got his book, he recommended going to places where people were smoking because that's what you've got to do in the future. And see, with eating, he would recommend, you know, not avoiding things, like don't avoid going out to eat and all that kind of thing. But for me, fair enough, don't avoid going out to eat, but I can't have a packet of biscuits in the house, because if I had a packet of biscuits in the house, I would eat the packet of biscuits. And so I just have got to that point where I know myself and I understand my physical cravings and I understand my psychological cravings. And I know that that packet of biscuits would be eaten by me. And so I make sure that I don't have biscuits in the house. I'm all right with dark chocolate. I'm not going to eat the whole thing of dark chocolate because it's not that same sugar hit, you know, as like cakes and biscuits. So I would say, don't have anything in the house that you know you're going to go crazy on. But also, like I said at the beginning, have some healthy ideas for treats that you can either make or buy, and have healthy things in that you will want to eat. So if I got, well, I have actually, I'm thinking, what can I eat now? After I've just had an egg mayonnaise sandwich, and I'm like, what can I have with a cup of tea? I can have a couple of squares of chocolate, or I can have one of my cupcakes that I made yesterday, which are so quick to make, like literally 15 minutes for the whole thing and then to be cooked and whatnot. Or I'm not going to have prunes with a cup of tea, but you know, there's options there. And I would say, have as many things in as you can that you know you won't overeat on, you know you won't go mad on, and that are good for you. Like I've got bananas in over there as well. I don't often have bananas because I feel like you get more fruit flies with them. I'm surprised I've not eaten any of these. Look, I've got Heroes. I just have one neighbour that comes around and does, what do you call the thing when you trick-or-treating? Our little neighbour comes round, so I got that little pot and some treats for him, and I will eat whatever he doesn't take. I tell him to take a big handful, and then I'll eat whatever's left for sure. But I love Heroes. This is going to make me drool looking at these. See, I could open this and eat out, and I would pick out every single fudge, and then I would go on to the Whispers, then the double deckers. Yeah, it's making me drool. I need to stop looking at them. I can do it with those because I can't be bothered to go and replace them, basically. So I don't know, I hope that those tips were maybe a bit helpful for you. I feel like they're kind of boring tips, and they are ones that I've read before that I'm kind of like, oh really, that's boring, you know. My biggest tip of all would be, you know, if you can afford it, and if it's something that you think you can risk in terms of side effects, then try one of these weight loss injections, because I feel like already the tide is turning with the opinion of that. It started off, it was like, don't take these, they can do this, that and the other. But most of the horror stories, I'd see these headlines and I'd look at them, and it was always telling you about the fact that it can make you sick, but not everybody gets that, you know. And as long as you start really slowly and don't take too much, you might be okay. And to me, if you're sick, then don't take it. You know, but it hasn't made me sick at all. Otherwise I wouldn't take it. And I tried Saxenda first, because Saxenda you take every day, which means that if you do get sick, you've only got to wait a day to feel better, you know, whereas with all the rest of them, I think is a weekly injection, and you've got to wait a bit longer to feel better, I guess. Anyway, I hope that that's useful for you. I am probably the same weight as when I last did my Wegovy update. And I've already lost the 2 pounds. Being a week from holiday, I've already lost the 2 pound that I had put on in the 2 weeks. So that's really good. I'm happy with that as well. And I'm sure that's half to do with the fibre and whatnot. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I will speak to you again soon.